So WordPress 5.8 has just dropped, and with it we have a pretty significant update to what can be achieved with Gutenberg. In this video, we'll be taking a look at exactly how JetEngine can work in combination with the new query loop feature. And while I'm at it, I'll also show you how you can add in JetStyleManager into the mix too. So we'll kick things off with the query loop itself and how we can replace everything with JetEngine's widgets and create something truly unique. So this is what we're going to look at recreating in this video. We're going to be using native Gutenberg features using the new WordPress loop feature inside Gutenberg, which is from WordPress 5.8, and how we can combine that alongside JetEngine's different widgets to create a truly unique setup with dynamic data. We're also going to take a look at how we can use JetStyleManager to start creating and styling the various different elements that we're going to include. So let's just hop over now into the dashboard, take a look at how we can recreate something very similar to this. I'm going to break this into two different sections. The first thing we're going to do is create the basic layout. The second part, we'll take a look at how we can use JetStyleManager to bring a little bit of style to each of these individual items inside our loop. Okay, so I've created a new page, and what we're going to do is we're going to come over and we're going to just do a plus on there to open up all the different widgets we have. We're going to search for loop, and there's our query loop. And this is one of those new features inside WordPress 5.8. We'll add that in, and that now allows us to choose from predefined layouts if we want to, and you can see there's a range of different options. However, what we're going to do is just start with a blank layout. We are going to switch over though to a grid view, and we'll just say start blank. So this now allows us to choose the kind of query loop that we want. Doesn't really matter too much. We're just going to say we're going to start with something like this. We'll switch this back over to our grid view, and you can see this just now gives us some really basic info. We're going to replace all of these items anyway. Take a quick look on the right hand side for this particular block. You can see we have the query loop, and you don't really have much in the way of choices inside here. However, one thing we do want to change right now is the post type. We're going to be using a custom post type we've previously set up with JetEngine for a series of properties. Now, if you haven't seen how to set things like this up in JetEngine, there's links in the description below to videos that will show you how to get up to speed with all of those things. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this up, and we're going to change this to our custom post type, which is properties. Once you do that, you can see that now replaces what we saw. We've got a couple of entries, we've got the title, and we've got the date they were added, and some other items. Now, another new thing inside WordPress 5.8 and above is the ability to come over and we can take a look at our list view, and we can see this gives us more information about the structure of our entire layout. You can see each of the various different widgets that are being used are selectable inside here. We click, that'll open up the options on the right hand side, and this just makes designing something like this much easier. However, what we're going to do is we're going to select the post title, and we're just going to remove that from there, and we'll just remove the block, and we'll do exactly the same with the post date. We'll remove that as well. So what we're left with now is just simply the query loop and the post template that sits inside the query loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the post template, and now we can go ahead and start adding in the various different JetEngine widgets that we want. So let's click the plus, and we're going to do a search for dynamic, and you'll see that gives us 6 different widgets currently with JetEngine. Now, there's a lot of things we can do with this, even though there's only 6 widgets inside here. There's a lot of options, and we'll cover some of those in this particular video. So we're going to just choose the dynamic image first of all, and you can see now that pulls in the post thumbnail. So with those added in, we can go ahead and make sure everything is laid out the way you want and operating the way we want. So we take a look on the right hand side underneath the dynamic image, we have all the different controls. We can choose the source, which is post thumbnail in this example, and we can do custom meta fields, those kinds of things. We come down to the layout option, and we're going to change this from full, and we're going to change this to catalog image, and that will then show us the resized versions of these images. The linked image option gives us the ability to link this through to whatever we want, and being a loop listing, we're kind of all used to the fact that clicking on this will take us to the detail of that particular post or property. So linked image is perfectly fine, and then we can choose the source of that, and permalink is the default option. We have more available inside there, but default option of permalink works perfectly fine in this example. And then you can go ahead and do things like opening a new window, your relative links and those kinds of things. And finally, you can also select a fallback image should you need to. So that's the first of our items inserted inside here. Next up, we want to put in another dynamic field. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to click on the plus, underneath the add block, and we're going to do a search for dynamic. I'm going to choose dynamic field this time. And you can see if we look at the left hand side, our structure is starting to pan out in exactly the same way as if you looked inside a tool like Elementor. It'll show you the hierarchy of the various different layouts. This is doing exactly the same thing. It comes really useful when you want to see exactly what's going on or select a specific item inside your design. So what we're going to do is, this is perfectly fine. It's pulled in the dynamic text, which in this example is the actual property name itself, and that's perfectly fine. And again, if you want to adjust things, you can do exactly that. So we want to make this a link as well. And to do that, we need to do a couple of things. Again, coming over to the right-hand side with that different widget selected, we've got the general option, and you can see the source is set up. We want to change the post object, and we want to change this to post ID to make it a link. Now you see what happens is that just replaces it with a number, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. So we need to now go ahead and filter that field output, and thankfully this is one of those areas that JetEngine has a ton of options. So we're going to enable the filter the field output. I click on there, and unfortunately you can't see all of these because it kind of drops off my screen, but what we're looking for is this option that says get post page link, link title. Click on that, and that now reformats that to be back to the title, which is the name of the property, and also makes it a link. We've also got things like the field tags, and this is where we can do things like we can set what HTML elements you want to assign to this particular item. For this example, we've got set as a div, and we're going to use that because we're going to style this a little later on. But you could, if you wanted to, set it to any of the H1 through 6 paragraph tag, or even set it to a span. So lots of options inside there. Okay, so that's that side of things. Now the next thing we want to do is we want to create some columns and group some things together. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a search this time for the group option. So click plus, and we're going to do a search for group, and we're going to just create a group inside here. Now there's many ways you can create groups inside Gutenberg. This is just one quick and easy way of doing it. Now if you're wondering why we're going to group this together, and the next set of options is because we want to select the group and come over to the color option on the right hand side underneath the block element, and we're going to set this now to have a background color of white. And this is kind of going to just give it a bit of a sort of white block against the grey background that the normal page will actually inherit. Just a little bit of a design kind of thing. But grouping can be useful for various different methods. Okay, so that's that side of things done. We now need to start adding in the extra options we want. So we're going to add another dynamic field. So we're going to click on the plus inside here, do a search or select dynamic field. And again, this pulls in the incorrect information this time. So what we need to do is set this for the price. So again, we're going to come over to the right hand side, change the source this time to metadata, and then we can choose the meta key field that we want. In this example, we want to choose price. So that will pull in the price information, and now we're going to scroll down and we're going to just filter the field output because we want to set this up to have the correct decimal place information. So we're going to open that callback up and we're going to say format number. This now allows us to set things like decimal places and so on. We're going to set this to be 0 decimal places. Then we're going to open up the customize field output option. And inside there, we're just going to put in the currency figure at the beginning. In my case, this is going to be the pounds. And we're going to say this is a monthly rental. So we're going to put the -MO at the end of it. And that will put the monthly information in. So hopping back and taking a quick look at the original listing that we're working towards, we need to put in these 3 separate little sections. The number of rooms, the number of bathrooms, and the actual square footage of the property itself. To do that, we're going to create a 3-column layout to drop that inside our group. Head back over, and what we're going to do is we're going to come back over, click on plus, and we're going to do a search for columns. Select columns from there, and we're going to set this to be the 33, 33, 33, so everything is split into 3, and there's our 3 columns sitting inside our design. Expand that out, you can see there's our columns and each of the columns. So now what we're going to do is we're going to drop in another dynamic meta. So dynamic field, and you can see that pulls in the incorrect information, so we just need to change that to metadata. Change our meta field in this example is going to be rooms, and now what we can do is we can scroll down, we can select an image that we've already gone ahead and uploaded. So we'll select the image, there's our icon we're going to use, we'll select that from there, and that's our first one inserted. So now we just need to recreate this now in the other 2 sections. So again, I'm going to click on the plus, dynamic field. This time we're going to change this to metadata, and we're going to use the option for baths. Select our image, choose the bathroom image, select that, and then the third and final one, which we'll select, so dynamic field, one more time, metadata, square footage, and select our image. So we'll choose this option. And there we go. So that's now created those sections. And the final thing we need to add in is to put in a dynamic link, which we can then style to look very much like a button. Okay, so let's just go back ahead and select our group. And now we're going to come up click on the plus, we're going to do a search for link, and we want the dynamic link option. So we'll select that, and that now positions that where we want. So you can see if we open up the structure again, that's now sitting inside our group, but outside of our columns. And this is kind of something you just have to be aware of when you're working inside Gutenberg. It's just to make sure that you've got the right thing selected so you don't get in a bit of a muddle with it all. Okay, so with the dynamic link selected, we need to change a couple of things. First of all, permalink is perfectly fine because this is going to take us over to the actual property details itself. We want to change the label though. That's using the short code for the title, which is the name of the property, and we're going to change this to be read more. And you can see, set that back, and you can see now that changes that to read more. Exactly what we want. And again, if we want to set things up inside here, we can do that, add icons, anything we want. So that's the basic structure of things put into place. Next thing we're going to need to do is publish this or save the draft, and then we're going to go ahead and start styling the various different elements, and then we'll take a look at the end how everything looks. So now that we've built the main query loop, we need to make it look just a little bit nicer. For this, we'll be using JetStyleManager to give us more control over the various different aspects of our design. Okay, so let's quickly preview this now just to make sure it's all the way we want, and then we'll start that styling. So let's preview in a new tab, and this is where we are. So looks a little bit rubbish, but a little bit of styling is going to make a heck of a lot of difference. So first of all, let's come back in and just choose the dynamic field. Now once you select a widget you can style using JetStyleManager, you'll see we get a little paintbrush appear over on the right hand side. For example, if I choose the post template, we can't style that, so that's not available to us. Dynamic image, you can see it comes back. Same thing for dynamic field. However, we go to group, it disappears. Okay, let's choose our dynamic field, and we're going to just set this up to look like a title. So we come over, click on that option, and now we can go ahead and set how we want this to all look. We take a look on the right hand side. We've got field style, we've got all the typography options, so we can now go ahead and start to make this look a little bit tidier. We're going to set our text color to be white. Our size 14 is perfectly fine, and you can see we have pixels, ems, rems, and viewport width, so we have all the key things that we need inside there. Line height, again, we're going to leave that as it is, as we will with letter spacing. However, we'll just change the weight of this, and we're going to set this to be bold. Now, you can't see it, obviously, because it's white on white. If we scroll down, you can see we can set things up for the field content width. We want to be full width, auto, and so on. We're going to set this to be full width. And now that gives us some additional options, or changes the options. So we're going to set our background color to this kind of pale gray, and now we can start to see our text. Scroll down and we've got all our padding options. Now our padding and our margins can be set as equal values by simply just typing straight into the box, or we can unlink those. So for example, you can see everything now is set to 10 pixels around, but if we wanted to, we can click this unlink sides, and now we have independent values we can set. So let's just say we'll set the left and right to be 15 pixels and the top and bottom to be 5, just to give us a little bit more breathing space. Same kind of thing goes with margins if you want to set those, and if you need to reset anything, you can hit the reset button. Scroll right the way down, and if you add an icon in, we can set all the different colors and things inside there. Okay, we're going to leave that as it is. That's looking the way that I want. So next we're going to move on now to the option for the dynamic field for the actual price per month. So again, we're going to select that from the left-hand column. And now we can come over to the right-hand side, and again, we've got those options. So we're going to change the size of this to be something like 24, so it's a little bit bigger. Our line height and everything we'll leave as it is on there. We'll change this again over to bold so it stands out a little bit better. And we can come down and we can set things up to be full width so we don't have any flow issues on there. And everything else is looking pretty good. If we want to set up any padding and margins, we can do that. So we'll just set a little bit of padding and margins on there. We'll set that to be 15 pixels, and we'll leave that as it is. Okay, again, if you've got icons set, you can set all those things inside here as well. Next on the agenda are our little icons and all the value information we've got there. So what we're going to do is we're going to come and choose the dynamic field. This gives us all the options now to style everything. So we're going to choose the style color that we want. And you can see this only affects the text, not the icon that's being used. So if we want to affect the icon, we can scroll right the way down to the bottom, choose the icon color, and that updates on there for us. So really easy to do. And once you kind of get used to working with this, you'll start flying through everything inside here. Okay, so we'll leave all those values as they are. We're going to scroll right the way through, and we're just going to adjust some of the padding and margins just to give us a little bit of breathing space around the side of the icons and so on. So under the padding, we're going to unlink these options, and we're just going to set a value of 15 pixels on the left-hand side. And you can see that now pushes things over a little bit. If we scroll down, you can see we can also set any values we want for icon gaps. So let's just increase that a little bit so we get a bit of a gap. Somewhere around about 6 pixels looks pretty good. Okay, so that's the first one set. I'm just going to repeat exactly the same now for the other two options. Now, while I've got the final value selected for the actual square footage of the building itself, we're going to select that and we're going to hop back over and we're going to come back into our dynamic field. Right the way down the bottom, we're going to customize this field output just so it makes a little bit more sense, and we're going to put meters squared so people can see exactly what that actually relates to. So the final thing for us to do is go ahead and make this dynamic link look more like a button. So we'll select it, making sure that we have the options on the right hand side for all our styling, and let's go ahead and set things up. We're going to reduce the size of this to about 12. We're going to set the line height to about 2, letter spacing to about 2, just to give us a little bit of breathing space between the letters. Set this to be all uppercase, and we can come down and we can start to set the background color, and this is where we can make it look more like a button. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this dark blue for the background color, white for our text, and you can see looks more like a button already. If you'd included an icon, you can set the color inside there and the border. We can also set the background color for on hover. So what we're going to do is we'll invert this button. So we'll say the background color is going to be white on hover and the text will be blue. So we can get a hover effect. And again, the same thing goes for the icon on hover as well as the border. Alignment, we're going to set this to be right aligned like so. And we're just going to add in a little bit of padding all the way around. So we say 10 pixels all the way around there, or it looks a lot more like a button. We can scroll down and we can set anything else up. So if you want to set a border radius and a border padding and corners and so on, we can do all those kinds of things as well. We're going to leave all those as they are though. And that's pretty much our styling side of things finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to save a draft on here, and then we're going to preview this in our browser. And you can see there's our layout. Now obviously we want to fine tune and finesse this just a little bit, some extra space in, those kinds of things. But you can see that it's pretty simple and straightforward to start to get to create more comprehensive listings using 5.8 of WordPress alongside Gutenberg, JetEngine, and also JetStyleManager. We have a lot more options available, and we're not reliant upon that page builder side of things to be able to create these more comprehensive dynamic listings. Now, if you're ready to learn more about JetEngine, take a look at this video next, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to be notified as soon as new content is added. As always, all of the applicable links are in the description below. My name is Paul C, and until next time, take care.